Hello, how are you today?
I'm great, how are you?
I'm excellent. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, my name is Katie and I was a student at UC Berkeley where I studied anthropology, but I'm also a transfer student. I transferred from Sacramento City College.
And what's something that you're passionate about?
I am super passionate about understanding humans from a variety of facets. I particularly love trying to understand us from our clothing and the way we dress ourselves.
And what would you say is your most impressive achievement?
My most impressive achievement thus far has been graduating from Berkeley.
And why did you choose to transfer to Berkeley?
I chose to transfer to Berkeley because I really liked the anthropology department and the courses that it offered, and I also really appreciate the professors and their research.
Did you always plan to transfer to Berkeley?
I did not. I actually barely graduated high school and wasn't sure I was even going to go to college.
And are you happy that you transferred here?
I'm very happy I transferred to Berkeley. It's been a fantastic transfer experience.
And what would you say is the most memorable course that you've taken in your time here?
I think my most memorable course has been the Museum Curation and Exhibit Design with Rosemary Joyce, where we collaboratively as a class proposed and developed a museum exhibit to a panel of museum professionals at the end of the class, and it's one of the reasons why I decided to go to grad school.
And why did you pick anthropology?
I picked anthropology because it was that class that I took in community college when I had no idea what I wanted to do that really sparked that joy and that excitement for my education, and I think just trying to understand humans is so cool.
And why do you believe that someone should study anthropology?
I think people should study anthropology not only because it's really interesting, but because it helps us understand human differences, but more importantly, human similarities. And I think it fosters a more compassionate mindset when trying to approach people from different cultures and different worldviews.
And were there a lot of transfer students in your major?
Yes, oh my gosh, the anthro major here at Berkeley is something like 65% transfer students.
Oh my goodness. And where are we right now?
We are currently standing next to Doe Library on our left, but also in front of the Campanile.
And how many libraries are there on campus?
Oh gosh, there's something like between 20 and 30 libraries on campus, which is actually a really cool fun fact. Berkeley, we are currently standing on Berkeley's underground library called the Stacks, and Berkeley's library collection got so big that even after we constructed the underground library portion, we had to keep making subject libraries. So we have the East Asian Library, the Environmental Design Library, the Anthropology Library, so on and so forth.
Oh my goodness. And which one is your favorite one?
I might be biased, but my favorite one is the Anthropology Library.
And would you say that it's social or silent?
It's definitely more quiet. We have some quiet study tables in the actual stacks where the books are, but we also have the armchairs in front of the windows where you can go and hang out with your friends.
And speaking of books, how many books do you have at home?
Probably too many to count. I think I tried counting one time and I lost track at around 150.
And can we see a little bit more of campus?
Yeah, let's go.
Are there any superstitions or traditions at Berkeley?
So Berkeley has so many superstitions and traditions. Just a couple I can think of. We have these big university seals on the ground in front of Doe Library where if you step on it, you're not going to get a 4.0, and if you do step on it, you have to run to the Campanile and touch 4.0 ball is what it's called, to save your 4.0 GPA. And we also have 4.0 hill where if you roll down it, you're supposed to get a 4.0. We have a lot of concerns about grades here.
Apparently so. And what's your favorite thing about being a transfer student here?
I think my favorite thing about being a transfer student is that I've had more experience than a regular college student. So I've had work experience, I've had life experience, and it helps me figure out what I really want to do in life.
And given that there's a lot of transfer students here at Berkeley, what would you say is your favorite thing about being a transfer student in your major?
Ooh, I think my favorite thing about being a transfer student in my major is the fact that there are a lot of other transfer students in my major. So there's a lot of other students who really understand what the experience is like, and they can relate to the same struggles and challenges that transfer students have.
And what set Berkeley apart from the other UCs, for transfer students in particular?
Ooh, I think it's set apart from other UCs for transfer students because we have a really robust program for transfer students here. We have the Transfer Student Center, which has been around for decades, and we have lots of events and courses that are meant to help the transition between community college and the UC.
And what was the process like to apply for transfer?
Well, first when I was in community college, I had to figure out that I wanted to transfer because I didn't really know what transferring was. And then once that happened, I had to fill out the application, which was 4 short essays, and then I sent that off to the different UC campuses I wanted to apply to, and then got in and had to pick one of them.
And did you get any work experience before transferring?
I did. I did some volunteer archaeology, and I also had an office job.
And what is the acceptance rate for transfer students at Berkeley?
I think it's around 24% for transfer students.
Oh, so much higher than the undergraduate acceptance rate,
Yeah,
correct?
for freshmen, it's something like 16%.
Oh my goodness. And how big is the anthropology program?
Oh, the anthropology department's actually pretty small. I think last time I checked, we had about 250 students.
And what year are you in currently?
Well, I just graduated, so I just finished my senior year.
Oh my goodness. And what was your favorite part about UC Berkeley?
I think one of my favorite parts about UC Berkeley, I mean, of course, the education and the people and the professors, but this campus is absolutely gorgeous, and I could not have imagined a better place to go to school.
And does UC Berkeley offer transfer student housing?
Unfortunately, Berkeley does not have transfer-specific housing. However, you can apply to live in the dorms, and we also have university apartments and the cooperatives.
If you hadn't transferred to UC Berkeley, what would you have done?
I really don't know. I think I probably would have gone to UCLA or UC San Diego for an anthropology degree as well.
And how many students were in most of your classes?
I only had one big class in my upper division units, and that was around 100 students, but typically it was more like 20, maybe 30 students.
And how much did you interact with other transfer students?
All the time. All my friends here are transfer students except for like one person.
And how do you socialize outside of school?
I love having friends over to my apartment. I like to host and throw small parties and get-togethers, and then we also do presentation nights where we talk about whatever we want to talk about. Last time it was about books.
And who's your ride or die on campus?
I mean, I have a couple, but if I had to pick one, Kate is one of my best friends here at Berkeley.
And why do you like living at Berkeley?
I love living in Berkeley because I think the city is gorgeous, the campus is gorgeous, and it's right by the bay, so we get this beautiful weather.
Excellent. And want to show us a little bit more of campus?
Yeah, come on.
What's the weather like in Berkeley?
Ooh, it's usually like foggy in the morning, and then it gets hot in the afternoon and gets cool again in the evening. It's that weird Bay Area weather.
And what are your favorite places to grab a cup of coffee?
I personally really love Mezzo for a cup of coffee, but I know Strata is really popular.
And what is your order?
Oh, I am super basic, so I either go for a chai latte or I get a vanilla latte.
And what are your favorite takeout spots in Berkeley?
I, again, really love Mezzo, but I also get Sliver a lot. It's a pizza place.
And favorite dessert spot?
There's a waffle place that's just next to Sliver, or I love to get Cinnaholic, which is like these amazing cinnamon rolls.
And what does a weekend at Berkeley look like for you?
I'm usually studying or doing my readings for class, and sometimes hanging out with my fiance if he has the time off.
And how do you balance your social life and school?
Well, I think Berkeley, one of the stereotypes that does hold true is that we play hard and we work hard. So I do school really hard and a lot and tons of time studying, and then I love to just take the time off and hang out with my friends when I get the chance.
And do you dress up for class?
I mean, I personally do, you know, vintage academic and everything, but a lot of people here wear like sweatpants or leggings to class.
And what is your favorite place to visit on campus?
Morrison Library inside of Doe Library is one of the most gorgeous places you'll ever visit. It was built in the 1950s as a reading room, and to this day you're still not allowed to bring laptops in there to honor the tradition of it being a quiet reading space.
And what is your relationship status?
Well, I'm engaged, I have a fiance.
And what is dating like in college?
I'm not gonna lie, it's pretty tough because I want to spend as much time as possible with my fiance, but we're both in school, so we spend the majority of our time studying and doing homework.
And do you have a job outside of college?
I do. I have two jobs. I work for an academic consulting firm where I help transfer students get into the schools that they want to get into. It's called Accepted Consulting. And then I also work for Accepted Society, which is a social network for like-minded scholars and individuals who love research across the globe.
And what would you say is the undergrad workload like?
I think it kind of depends on what your major is. It can be really intensive if you're in like a STEM major, but personally as a social sciences major, it was mostly reading and writing a couple essays a semester.
And how much reading do you have per week?
Ooh, each class has something like 4 or 5 readings per week, and then if I'm in 4 or 5 classes, you get the gist.
Excellent. And what do you do when you feel burnt out?
I love to just turn off all of my electronics, take a bath, read a book, and go to bed early.
And what is one essential item to bring with you to Berkeley?
I'm going to give you 2 actually. You definitely need an umbrella when it gets rainy, but you need the sunscreen when it gets sunny. It's California, so the sun is really hot.
And are all socioeconomic statuses represented at Berkeley?
I think Berkeley does its best, but Berkeley is also really expensive, so there are limitations to what students can afford when coming to Berkeley.
Is your program academically competitive?
I think that Berkeley is academically competitive, but the thing I love about the Anthropology program is that we try to be really collaborative, and we try to make sure that students are really learning what they need to learn rather than testing us on rote memorization.
And how much do students at Berkeley engage in social and political issues?
Well, we're known as like the hippie campus for a reason. We have a long history starting in the 1950s and 60s of social protests and social engagement, and Berkeley students are also really well known for their civic engagement as well.
If you could change one thing about Berkeley, what would it be?
I think it would definitely be to change the way the university is funded, because I definitely think we could be giving more money to student resources, libraries, as well as financial aid to make it more accessible for a broader variety of people.
And what's your #1 tip for transfer student success?
Get going the second you get here. Like, find a community, find a club, an organization, a research project, whatever it is, don't waste your time.
And is your program diverse?
I think that any program, especially in California, could be more diverse, but I think the Anthropology program, because of the way that we teach anthropology, is probably more diverse than other programs.
And what advice would you give your community college self?
I would tell myself to keep trying. It took me a long time to get through community college, but I did not want to give up.
Why did you think you got into Berkeley as a transfer?
I don't really like to speculate about why I think I got in or why one person got in and one person didn't, because I'm not behind the closed doors of an admissions officer. But I do know that I spent a lot of time working on my essays, and when it comes to the UCs, they really care about what you have to say in your essays.
Does UC Berkeley have transfer pride?
Absolutely, we do. We are actually right next to the Transfer Student Center, and I'm obviously one of those people who's like, hi, nice to meet you, I'm Katie, I'm a transfer student.
Excellent. And did Berkeley meet your expectations for transfer experience?
I think it tried. I think there were limitations because I transferred during the pandemic, but I do know that other people who transferred not in the pandemic had a wonderful transfer experience.
Is this a school for everyone?
I think that everyone can find their place at Berkeley, but it is definitely a challenging place to go to school.
What type of transfer will do well at UC Berkeley?
I think any transfer will do well because transfer students are a different type of student, and we understand the hard work that it takes to be a successful student.
What has been your biggest hardship as a transfer?
I think my biggest hardship as a transfer is the culture shock that happens when you come to a new school. There were certain ways of speaking and thinking and like the traditions at Berkeley that I didn't understand because I hadn't been here the 2 previous years of freshman and sophomore year.
If you could do it again, would you still transfer to Berkeley?
Absolutely, I would transfer to Berkeley. I just, again, love the campus, I love my courses, I love my professors, and I love my friends here.
And what does UC Berkeley mean to you?
UC Berkeley means home to me because it was the first time I left the hometown that I grew up in and my first solo apartment, and it was where I got engaged to my fiance and where I got my undergraduate degree, so it's just a piece of home.
And what is your favorite UC Berkeley memory?
I think my favorite UC Berkeley memory is all the times that I've spent hanging out with my friends late at night, especially Kate and Eamon. Special shout out to them for hanging out with me in the stacks super late at night, like 1 o'clock in the morning.
Finish the sentence. Without Berkeley, I would never have...
Without Berkeley, I would never have found my best friends and decided to go to grad school.
And goals after you graduate?
I'm going to grad school.
And when you graduate, what are you going to miss most about Berkeley?
I'm definitely going to miss my professors and the classes. I'm going to miss my best friends, and I'm going to miss the campus a lot because I love the dark academia vibe here.
And how will your degree prepare you for your career goals?
So an anthropology degree really just teaches you how to question things and how to understand humans from a variety of different frameworks and perspectives, and I want to understand humans through clothing and the way we dress, so it's going to help me think through my research and theorize the reasons why we interact with clothing.
And what advice would you give to someone interested in transferring here?
My advice would be to visit the campus if you can and do your research on how to apply to the UCs, because Berkeley is a competitive school and does not participate in the transfer admission guarantee, so you've really got to work those essays.
And before we go, can you show me your best Go Bears?
Go Bears!
Excellent. Thanks so much for answering my questions today.
Thanks for hanging out with me. See you later.
Bye.